What if I told you one of the biggest albums of all time was a complete cured disaster? We're talking 3 years of hell, millions of dollars down the drain, a producer who quit, and a drummer losing his arm in a horrific car crash. Here's how Def Leppard poured some sugar on a total nightmare.
Like, subscribe. Thank you.
So it's 1983, and this band, Def Leppard, is on top of the world. They're these young dudes from Sheffield, England, and they've just released this album called Pyromania, and it's a monster. It's produced by Robert John Mutt Lange, who is basically a mad scientist of studio sound. Pyromania is slick, powerful. It's got these hooks that just grab you. Photograph, Rock of Ages. MTV plays them every 20 minutes. The album is selling 100,000 copies a week. And in America, forget about it. They are on top, outselling everybody. Almost everybody. The only thing that keeps them from number one is Michael Jackson's Thriller. But still, they're freaking doing it. Def Leppard just conquered the world at that point, and they did it by kicking out their original guitarist, Pete Willis, right in the middle of recording. Pete was a founding member, but he had a problem with alcohol, like a really bad problem. He apparently showed up to a recording session so drunk he could not play. Mutt, being the perfection that he is, just could not deal with it. So singer Joe Elliott was given the dirty work of having to go and fire Pete. Pete's response was apparently, "You can't do this." And Joe was like, "I just did." So they bring in this guy, Phil Collen, who's a total professional, has the look, has the vibe, and can play circles around a lot of people. The new lineup is set. Pyromania sells 10 million copies. So now the record label is breathing down their necks going, "We want another one. More money, please. More money." The pressure is insane. How do you top a perfect album? The band decides to move to Dublin, Ireland to get away from the craziness and mostly to avoid paying Britain's insane 83% tax rate. They're living in this house together trying to write songs. Mutt Lange is, of course, supposed to produce the new album, but by this time, Mutt's brain is just fried. He spent years doing Pyromania, and then the Cars' Heartbeat City, and he's done. He just tells the band, "You know what? You guys are good enough to do this on your own. You know my tricks. Go for it." And then he bails, leaving them high and dry. The band is terrified. Mutt was their safety net. He was the sixth member, the guy who crafted their entire sound. Without him, they're lost. Their managers, these two guys, Peter Manch and Cliff Bernstein, start to freak out. They need a producer. So they hire Jim Steinman. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he's the lunatic genius behind all of Meatloaf's Bad Outta Hell stuff. And Steinman's all about that raw, operatic, bombastic rock, complex concepts. And so he arrives in Dublin. The band plays him their demos. He listens and basically says, "This is garbage. It's too polished." He wants to throw out their new songs, go into a live studio, and record this angry rock album. Def Leppard, meanwhile, wants to make Pyromania Part 2. So it's kind of a reversal on a lot of the bands that I covered, where the band themselves wants to go in and make something angry, and the producer or the label flips out and goes, "No, we just want more of the same." So Steinman wants to make Bad Outta Hell, and it's a total disaster. They spend 8 weeks arguing. They record absolutely nothing usable, and the band finally fires him. Now they're months into the project, spend a fortune on Steinman, and have zero to show for it. The album is cursed from the start. So they're back at square one. They're in Holland, trying to work on their demos with their sound engineer, Nigel Green. They figure if Mutt won't do it, we'll just do it ourselves. And then tragedy happens. It's New Year's Eve, 1984, and the drummer, Rick Allen, is just 21 years old, driving his black Corvette Stingray through the English countryside just outside of Sheffield, heading to his parents' house for a party. He's with his girlfriend, Miriam, and this guy in an Alfa Romeo shows up next to him, starts revving his engine, wanting to race. Rick, being a 21-year-old rock star in a Corvette, takes the bait. He speeds up, pushing the car hard on these winding country roads. He gets so focused on this idiot next to him that he doesn't see a sharp left turn coming up. He loses control. The car smashes through a stone wall and flips into a field. Rick isn't wearing his seatbelt properly, and he's thrown from the car. His left arm is caught by the belt, and it's ripped, completely severed from his body, just below the shoulder. His girlfriend is trapped in the car, but is miraculously not badly hurt. Rick is lying in the field, bleeding out in total shock. He's actually trying to find his arm. And to his credit, he was really thinking on his feet, because he knew to actually raise his arms in the air, or essentially, what was left of his arm at that point, in order to help regulate the blood flow until he could get help. A local nurse who lives nearby sees the wreckage and runs out. She finds Rick, Another woman, a midwife, stops. They pack the severed arm in ice. They're trying to save him. He's rushed to the hospitals. Doctors manage to reattach the arm. The band is in Dublin when they get the call, and they're just completely devastated. They fly to Sheffield. Joe Elliott walks into the hospital room. Rick is pale, hooked up to machines, and the first thing he says to Joe is, "I think I'm going to miss the next gig." But for a few days, it looks like the reattachment might work, but then infection sets in, a really bad one. Doctors have to make a choice, his arm or his life, and so they amputate the arm permanently. It's over. Rick Allen, the Thunder God, the powerhouse drummer of the biggest band in the world, is now a one-armed man. The press is brutal. They write the band off. Def Leppard is finished. Drummer loses arm. It's a media circus. People are saying, well, how is he going to play? Is he just going to do beats like boom, 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 boom? And the band is just numb. But they make a decision right there. They're not replacing him. Joe Elliott later said, "We're not firing him. He's our friend. We'll wait, however long it takes." They didn't know if he could ever play again. They just waited. And this is when Mutt Lange, the guy who bailed on them, steps back in. He hears about the accident, feels horrible for the band, for Rick, and probably feels a bit guilty. Calls him up, "I'm in. We'll make this record, no matter what it takes." And this one act of loyalty from the band and compassion from Mutt really changes everything. Mutt's new idea is simple and insane. He says, we can't make Pyromania 2. The album has to be even bigger. It has to be a rock version of Thriller. Every single song has to be a freaking hit single. This is the new goal. And so the studio hell begins. First, Rick. How does a one-armed man play the drums? Rick is sitting in the hospital and he starts tapping his feet. He realizes that he could use his left foot to do what his left arm used to do. He gets his friends at the Simmons Electronic Drum Company to build him a custom kit. It's a wild-looking contraption with electronic pads. His left foot now controls a snare drum pedal. It's agonizing. He has to completely rewire his brain. He's in a basement practicing for 8 hours a day, just sweating, relearning his entire craft from scratch. Meanwhile, the rest of the band's in the studio with Mutt, and it's a different kind of hell. It's the hell of perfection. Mutt doesn't want performances. He wants construction. He makes Phil Collin, the guitarist, use this tiny little amplifier called a Rockman, which is basically a Walkman for guitars. And he has them record one note at a time. Not a riff, a freaking note. And he'll make them do that damn note 100 times until it's perfect. Then they move to the next note. The guitars on Hysteria aren't played, they're friggin' assembled like a model airplane. And the vocals, this is where it truly gets insane. Mutt wants a wall of sound. He has them sing every single harmony part one by one. And not just 3-part harmony. We're talking 10, 20, 50 tracks of vocals. We're getting into Freddie Mercury territory here. Now for the song Love Bites, there are reportedly over 100 individual vocal tracks just for the chorus. They called it Mutt's Mass, as in massive vocals, taking months and months and months. 2 years have passed since Rick's accident. 2 years. They think the album's finally done. They got this great song, Animal, as the lead single. They got Love Bites. The album is finished. They're all relieved. And Joe Elliott is just sitting in the studio noodling on an acoustic guitar. He's got this little riff. Mutt from the control room perks up. His ears are like a bat's. He gets on the intercom. "Hey, what is that?" Joe's like, "Oh, just a stupid idea." Mutt says, "That's the best hook we've heard in 3 years. We need to write this now." And the band is pissed. They are done. They're fried. They just want to go home. Mutt says, "No, this is the blockbuster. This is the one." They spend the next 10 days writing and recording this one last song from scratch. The song, Pour Some Sugar on Me. The album, now titled Hysteria, finally comes out in August of 1987, almost 4 years after Pyromania. It's cost a reported $4.5 million in 1987. That's an astronomical, unheard of amount of money. And the record label is scared out of their wits. The band's told this album has to sell 5 million copies just for us to break even. 5 million. Pyromania sold 10, but this is a huge gamble, especially with all the time that has elapsed. And at first, it looks like it's going to fail. They release Women as the first single in the US, and it bombs. It's too, quote-unquote, rock. The label panics. The band panics. They release Animal in the UK, and it's a hit. Okay, good sign. They release the title track, Hysteria, and it's a medium hit. The album is selling, but it's not selling 5 million. And then 8 months after the album is released, they put out Pour Some Sugar on Me. The song hits MTV. Bam! Like a nuclear bomb, this thing friggin' goes off. And suddenly, Hysteria is well beyond an album. It's an album that matters. Flies to #1 on the charts. Love Bites follows to #1. Armageddon It. Rocket. In the end, 7 of the album's 12 songs are released as singles. And the album they spent 3 years, millions of dollars, and almost all their sanity on ends up selling over 20 million copies. It was a gamble that paid off. But it wasn't without its cost. While all this was going on, another tragedy was brewing. Guitarist Steve Clark, the White Lightning riff writer, the soul of the band's sound, is a chronic alcoholic. And the band's success, the pressure, and the endless touring was just killing him. He's in and out of rehab. On the Hysteria tour, he has to have a minder with him 24/7 just to keep him from drinking himself to death. And it doesn't work. He's found unconscious in a gutter in Minneapolis. He breaks 3 ribs trying to jump into a fountain while drunk. The band is watching their friend just slowly wither away, and they cannot stop it. They try an intervention. They beg him. Nothing works. In 1990, as they're trying to write their next album, they give him a 6-month leave of absence. They just say, go get better. We'll be here. In January of 1991, he's gone. Found on his couch in London. A lethal mix of alcohol and prescription drugs. He was just 30 years old. It was a brutal end to a really successful chapter for Def Leppard. And even though they soldiered on, they never really hit the magic that they got with Hysteria. One hell of a colossal project, not unlike Chinese Democracy. However, Hysteria, that formula proved to be successful. Chinese Democracy, not so much. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, join the family. To my subs, you freaking rock. To my patrons, you freaking rock. Thank you so much for watching.